Well, I tell you, I don't know where Billy gets that from, but I can assure you it's not from this household. We don't do this sort of thing here. And when he gets home, I'm gonna make sure that he is punished, because I don't tolerate that type of shit. Sorry, we're all adults here. So just to be clear, Billy's only suspended for the day, not for the rest of the semester. Okay. I haven't done the Zoom type of thing before, so it's kind of unique. Thank you guys so much. Thank you very much for understanding. I promise you, as Billy's father, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. Thank you so much. Okay, it's probably COVID and cabin fever. He's just trying to lash out some, I don't know. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Sorry. Like father, like son, huh? Welcome to the BenBen Show, episode 16. Yeah. This episode of the BenBen Show is brought to you by the Cash App. You think Leonardo DiCaprio is impervious to the Me Too movement? Whew. No. He dates 18-year-olds for a living. Better pile up that legal defense fund now. His handle on the Cash App's in my description below. Whew. Just give it time. It's like a couple Johnny Depp moves. Dating Amber Heard, psycho, borderline personality. It's going fast, man. Oh, it's just what they do. They cycle. It's like, Zac Efron's rising. We gotta knock down this Johnny Depp. We can use him. Parlay it's up a couple crazy liberals that want to give us a few $100 million to the studios. This is knock down one of our guys. It's starting to look like Jack Nicholson anyway. It's fine. Also sponsored by Jeffrey Tobin's Penis, equalizing the equation of crazy liberal journalism and some more objective BenBen truth. I have to say, I'm not conservative whatsoever. I'm socially liberal. I just have a more libertarian view of the way people should view fiscal responsibility, the government. It's consolidating all our power in one area and having like an electoral college, for example, which is supposed to protect us against demagoguery, like having this like megalomaniacal person all at once, right? That is kind of antithetical. You shouldn't consolidate all the power at the federal government level, but then have an electoral system designed to protect against consolidation of power, right? I know you have the executive, legislative, judicial branches bifurcating this sort of like process, but it's more complicated than that. Just the far-reaching power of the federal government, the government spending, the kind of way we've looked at the COVID crisis now today. Well, that's something we should mention. But right after this, COVID crisis has kind of like shown us that the government's willing to just say, we don't know how to treat our own health, and there should be mandates on what we should do. If Biden was what the hell was that? If Biden was president right now, we would be forced to stay home. We would be, and those things, regardless of what you think about Trump, unpresidential, yes. Comportment ridiculous, yes. A bully, unquestionably. But I don't know that it makes him a bad president. I don't know that it makes him in cahoots with Russia or recently the Chinese, bank accounts, which, kind of unsubstantiated. You have to have foreign bank accounts in any country you do business in. It's kind of the way it is. It's how for currency issues, it's kind of the way it is. But don't want to get into that. Going back to COVID, it's just, I don't like a government telling me what to do with my health. Roe versus Wade applies in a very specific sense to a woman's body. Why the hell should it not apply to whether I should wear a mask or not? Or more importantly, because I think we should respect each other in a society that are more susceptible to COVID, masks are somewhat essential, at least at this point, based on CDC and WHO guidelines. Fine. It's the mandate of what if a vaccine, I have to have one to put my kid in a private school, or a public school, excuse me. Maybe a private school also. They kind of, teachers at public schools make way more money than private schools, and there could be this huge push of like massive amounts of government money and subsidies. And then the private schools will have to, in order to maintain their charter, they're being open, they have to, kind of conform to these kind of like public rules of kind of nationalizing the private sector in the school system, which is really messed up. I don't know that elites would like that. We'll see. All depends on who's paying the checks, right? But the way we treat people with COVID, this is kind of my point, it's weird. We don't care. No one gives a shit about people that have had COVID at all. We only care that you could have it. We don't give a baker's fuck. Once you have it, great. You're over the 14-day quarantine period or 20-day quarantine period. Wonderful. Put your mask back on, get back in line, asshole. We don't give a baker's fuck. Imagine if you went through chemotherapy and then once it was over, by yourself, by the way, because no one can be near you, right? Because you're contagious like COVID. It's almost like most of the world doesn't even know you had it. There's no congratulations. There's no like flowers sent to you maybe. That's kind of like very, very at arm's length. And then you're done, you're back in public, and because you can get it again, which is very unlikely if you're in remission for cancer, it doesn't happen like that, and it's contagious, unlike cancer. Well, hereditarily speaking, some cancers, but not the way COVID is. It's not viral. You just put your mask back on and just no one cares. There's no parade for you. No one gives a baker's fuck. You survive this thing that's allegedly so dangerous. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get to it later. Ireland's, they've had 3.5% of the people infected have died, which I bet is proportionate to people over the age of 60 in that country. There's a country of 5 million people. They are now in a 6-week lockdown period, shutting down their economy again. There's alleged fear of spikes happening all over, particularly in Texas. We'll see what happens there. There's another shutdown. Be very, very interesting. If this could all parlay into the municipal governments of each city, kind of preempting Biden's candidacy and going along with this push, which could hurt the election cycle. See, this is what's weird. A lot of the people that might have, been conservative at one point really needed the subsidies from the government this time to get through. They might have even been converted to some form of, socialism. I know it sounds like a pejorative sense, but like more of a liberal mindset of like, hey, this is the reality that I'm living in. If you shut down their businesses again, I think people are going to go crazy and even the most liberal person would be like, you know what, I can't, Biden's going to do this maybe through the fucking Christmas. This is my slow season. I can't allow this to happen. I'm not going to deal with food stamps and like some sort of like canned food drive area bullshit like this is Venezuela. No, Trump all the way. That's the danger. And so I'm wondering about how municipals play this, because they have more power. They can do what they want. They can do anything they want, essentially, provided the governor of their state allows it. It's just interesting. Like they could completely undermine the federal government level in terms of like mandates based on their own national disaster acts and so on and so forth. They can easily do that. Governor Abbott did it. He was the last person to do it, but all the cities before him were more austere and severe, like Austin, like San Antonio, way more severe than at the state level. It could happen again, especially if another shutdown makes absolute sense. The only thing is, I don't think it plays well if you want to maintain your power or your constituency, particularly in conservative states with business interests in mind. Just a thought. Let's pivot. We pivot. Just a sec. How about a remake of 3 Men and a Baby, where the ghost kid that allegedly was from that apartment that's seen in that one scene behind the curtain, but that's part of the movie in the remake. Like there's a ghost, and Ted Danson, his wig, and Tom Selleck and his mustache have to fight it, or like deal with it somehow. I think that'd be a great remake. Oh my gosh, that'd be so good. Who was the baby in that movie? Did he grow up to be anyone? It's like a child star. Is he on coke? Is he Hunter Biden? I don't know. I wonder what Larry Kudlow thought of that. I don't know. That's cool. There's so many investment bankers too that were, hey man, I was doing coke through the 80s. I got over that shit. I just do it recreation now. I don't appreciate that comment. I was gonna vote for you, man. I was gonna vote for you. It's not like all Wall Street people are in the Democratic pocket. Stephen Cohen, the hedge fund manager, almost lost his ability to trade. He has a family office, so much money he doesn't really need other people's money, OPM, he voted for Trump. So, it's there. Trump could be the best man at someone's wedding. And if the groom says anything that he doesn't like, the next day, Trump could be like, well, yeah, sorry, I was at that wedding. It's not like I play golf every weekend. I have friends and family, but I'm just not a big fan of his anymore. Just next day, he easily could say that. Anything the groom says he doesn't like. The Hunter Biden emails, the connection to the Obama cabinet, the connection to Biden as vice president, they're weak and watered down. They're not substantive enough to make any affirming, conclusions with the Justice Department and FBI investigating them as to whether Biden did a pay-for-play thing, withheld $1 billion from Shokin because of either a failure to crack down on corruption, which is ironic, or because he wanted to gain, put his son in a position of power or something like that. Now, of course, when you go fuck up kids, prodigal sons, and you want to protect them, these things happen. His $1.3 million a year salary on Wall Street, I guarantee you, Hunter Biden has never seen an Excel spreadsheet to save his fucking life. He has no idea whether to look at stock-based compensation. I'm not talking down to you, listener, right now. I'm just saying he doesn't know whether stock-based compensation, for example, is a cash or non-cash expense. He doesn't know anything about valuation or about arbitrage, bond arbitrage. He doesn't know anything. Michael Milken, anathema to him. Oh, he was a golfing buddy of my father. Something that's about as far as it goes. So that's okay. The Clintons did it with, what's her name, Chelsea. I remember when Chelsea was on my street. When I was a kid, Chelsea's boyfriend lived on my street, which is Tucker Carlson's street, actually, Old Street, before he was picketed out by crazy people outside his house. Bought the Quinn's house. Our house is at the end of the cul-de-sac. His is kind of in the middle. Lovely house, all stone. Anyway, on Halloween, all the Secret Service people would kind of watch Chelsea walk with her boyfriend, and I would tap, pull on the Secret Service person's jacket, and they'd turn to me. I was a little kid. I was tall for a kid. I was 6'6" at 12. Can you believe that crap? 166 pounds when I took my driver's license at 16 at 6'6". Awkward. Yeah, I was awkward. Yes, unquestionably. If I'm not awkward now, I was awkward then. I'd pull on their jackets sir, excuse me, sir. And they would kind of be as politely, because under the circumstances, it's very nice streets, I'm not a threat. In my Spider-Man costume or Superman, or one of those masks where I'm just doing my bang, you will die. Sir, I know who the fuck you are. You're a Secret Service agent. You can't fucking fool me. I didn't say fuck, but you get what I'm saying. I thought it was really adorable. Another adorable thing I did as a kid when I ate all the Caesar salads at a family get-together of extended family or something. There's dancing. While everyone was dancing, I ate all the Caesar salads that were placed on the table. So when people got back, they were there. I ate all of them. They might even had anchovies on them. I ate everything. Loved it. It was Caesar salads. Yes, more of that. Once my uncles took me to dinner. They asked me, the waiter asked me how I'd like my burger, and I said, well, I'd like a bun on the bottom, meat in the middle, and a bun on top. I was adorable. And evidently, without this hair, it was blonde. I looked like Macaulay Culkin. So, yeah, adorable. Big fan of his. I like his shtick right now. I like his podcast. I like his art. I like what he's doing. I like that he's healthy, all things considered. I think it's hard for someone like that to survive everything that's happened to him. It seems easy when you see other success involved or money. Money is completely ancillary. It really is when it comes to psychological health. If you're not healthy, you're not healthy, period. And when things happen to you that are horrible, or when you're under incredibly stress with your family and being a childhood star, good for him. He's managed to make it through. Dating beautiful women and just relaxed now. Seems to have a good head on his shoulders. Good for him. Amazon Prime truck just came by. Lovely. Might have something. We'll talk about the San Diego Unified School District. California's second largest district, wants to change their grading system because they fear that it's currently racist. Okay, sure. 66% of all failing grades went to Hispanic, Black, or Native American kids. 7% were white. Okay? They want to change the grading system from receiving failing grades to a mastery of material, which I don't really know what that means. Is that an aptitude test, which would then be graded once a year? I'd like some more clarification there. So that's a test two, which would be bias. How do you standardized testing in minority groups? It's a problem. I think that I like the acknowledgement of there's an issue, but that's a problem. Non-material factors like classroom behavior and turning work in late would not count against grades. It'd be more of a citizenship, like a what do you call it? A try score, effort grade or something, not related to the actual core grade of the class. I don't know that that's a great idea for every student, because I think that some kids benefit from structure, and the idea that their grades are completely separate from their study habits and skills and sense of responsibility or schedule focus. You just take that out of the way, and they can just turn in a paper 3 weeks late, maybe even copy off other people's once they've turned them in, and just use them as an exam. It's dangerous. Are they only doing this for just Hispanic, Native American, and Black students, and the white kids just have to? That's racist. Is it just for everyone? Because that seems more fair, though I think it will hurt some kids that need that structure. The key, you don't learn study skills out of nowhere. It's not just innate. You have to build rigidity. Consequentiality for this and that. If it's not there and that's affecting the grades overall, it's not just they do really well but they turn it in late. I don't think that correlation's accurate. The most disturbing thing, and I'm all for equal opportunity and changing things that are inherently racist, and there is standardized testing unquestionably. IQ tests and things of this sort, there seems to be a disconnect, but I think it comes from a family educational background that's earlier on. I think there's a lot of nativism involving socioeconomic factors that I think severely affect, maybe by up to 30%, and that's unfortunate. But going to this point, the school board also would be reviewing a zero tolerance policy on cheating in the coming weeks. Not sure if I agree that cheating should be thrown out the window as a zero tolerance policy, or should be given, I don't know. It seems like everything that they're trying to do would encourage cheating. Also, if they are only applying these new rules to their Hispanic, Native American, and Black students, that is inherently racist towards white students. And I'd love to see their statistical data as to kids who turn in their work late. The quality of the work, is it directly proportionate to the in other words, is it only brought down in terms of its grade based on how tardy or how late the assignment is, or is the quality of work also bad? Because that's an indigeneity error. You can't just lump it in and say, it was beautiful. Excellent work, it just was turned in way too late. Is the work failing after being turned in late, but in reality it's still a C-, D+ quality of work? Then it might benefit the student to learn about deadlines and stuff like that, because it doesn't help them in the real world. That's the other thing. Protecting people, saying the reason why they're struggling is because of their skin color. It's weird. It's weird in of itself, or because of their ethnicity. Tell that to the Jews. They're kicking ass. I'm just saying, it's the thing. They ostracized anti-Semitism and they overcame that. There's no one saying, he's Jewish, we should cut him some slack on this test. Let's let him turn in the midterm. You just take it at home, turn in when you want to. You don't have to take it with the rest of the class. She's Jewish, it's okay. It's just weird, right? And it's I mean, you gotta be careful. You gotta be really careful. And we have to be careful about reverse racism. With the idea being, if you're not gonna allow white students to take advantage of these things, the implication being that somehow there's racism involved in the actual, like, cultural element of skin color that isn't applicable to white kids. And this is just based off skin color. It's nothing to do with the environment at home or any environmental factors at all. It's just skin color, which is so superficial and ridiculous. And it doesn't seem like a great way of balancing out the equation long term. It seems like a huge crutch that will propel a group of young people into being struggling adults. Is that fair? That's what I worry about. Is that racist to say that? Because it doesn't fit the narrative of what the second largest school district in California wants to do. It's a great way of empowering a federal government, a federal institution, getting more, federal government subsidies and stuff like that by saying, look at all these kids that are struggling. 30% of the country has an IQ under 85. What is it? 30% of 120 million people in this country? That's accurate, right? You have a group of people that are, from an aptitude standpoint, are in trouble, and then you're kind of augmenting that with a group of people that you're intentionally sabotaging in terms of their development as contributing members of society, so they don't learn skills about consequence, about, it's not competition in any sense, shape, or form. It's just like some kids need to learn about responsibility, and it benefits them. I just don't understand, how is responsibility a skin color issue? If you say it's a cultural issue, then it's inherently racist. If you say it's just skin color, it's way too shallow. You put yourself in this tight spot in terms of how you want to talk about this. It's very frustrating. There's also that, going back, it goes to that kind of segment of IQ. Is IQ racist? No. Is IQ inborn? Yes, to a degree. It can change. Environmental, up to 30%, I think, based on the testing on environment. But this is a problem. It becomes like when politicalization of race for voting blocks becomes almost a system of indoctrination by sabotaging people that will be dependent on the government and be democratic because they need the subsidies to survive, because they were sabotaged, almost like putting nicotine in lollipops at a young age to be dependent. That's disgusting. That is racist. Can you prove that's what's happening? Is it this inherent altruism? Is it stupidity? Or is it just a group of teachers that found out a way to game the system and say, we don't want to take responsibility for our failing students, so this is what we're going to do? Like I said, public school systems, way better benefits and salaries than private schools. More competitive though, I don't know. Just saying. I had a great teacher who worked in the inner city private schools, ended up teaching at my school, my middle school. Stabbed in the hand as a teacher at one point, didn't stop him. Was jumped while biking cross country, raising money for his school district. Awesome, he did it. He was jumped. It's almost like he's like just an asshole that like deserved. No, he's a great guy. I love him. Dr. Eberwein, wonderful man. But I went to a private middle school. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Shame on me. But I'm sure he would have preferred to work somewhere else. It's competitive. Or maybe he got sick of being stabbed in the hand by kids who were allowed to cheat on tests and turn in papers late. Just saying, you gotta be careful. As I said, Ireland has some 51,000 confirmed cases of COVID. 1,850 deaths, about 3.5% of that number. Total population is 5 million. The total number of cases has risen by 75% since September. This is what people are worried about, is the kind of the Spanish flu case of an extraordinary like logarithmic spike in the fall during flu season. There's also this problem of like immune system suppression with the flu and other things, colds. People are more susceptible. I don't know. It's disconcerting. It's very disconcerting. I just don't want shutdowns to happen again. I don't believe, that that's correct. Scaring the crap out of me. There's this beautiful game of accusing Trump of being selfish going into the election. There could be some mandates by the municipal governments to go ahead and shut down. Trump could have to take up like a public, from a public relations standpoint, take the position on that may be anathema to his election chances, because the left will use that as meaning he doesn't care about the American people. Implication of which is kind of farcical and superficial in the sense that he's not doing anything. He's just simply not agreeing with what the municipal governments are doing. He's allowing them to do what they're doing in terms of shutting down businesses in their districts. I think this is the beautiful play, and I alluded to this in the other podcast with Vice President Pence and Kamala Harris. So Kamala didn't win that debate. I was surprised. But if you were to look at her sound bites separately, or even in conjunction, she's playing to her base, which is based off empathy and emotion. And fear is a wonderful tool, especially with the last generation of baby boomers getting up there in age that are most susceptible, largest population, spike in U.S. history. And then their children now, who are a bunch of lacking, 90% of millennials like $5,000 in savings. There seems to be an inherently liberal tilt in universities and so on and so forth, intelligentsia push since like postmodernism in the 1980s. There's a beautiful game being played where altruism, idealism is kind of like compounded. Especially when you talk about your parents. You could be the most conservative person in the world, or a libertarian that kind of concede, I'm going to wear a mask, I'm going to do whatever I can. And from a public relations standpoint, you beat Trump, and all the Democrats have to say is, why isn't he shutting things down? Look at these spikes. Or look at what even before they happen, look what the CDC is saying about potential spikes. He has to do something. He has to do something before it happens, before the election, or else. And his choice in how he plays that publicly, not in terms of what he actually does, just what he says, could swing the election. These games are not substantive to like protecting the Constitution of the United States and how it should be. This is about winning no matter what, and that's one of those games I don't really care for from the Democrats. Like some of the money Nancy Pelosi wants before the election for the states is bailout money, and also for poorly run liberal states like California, and also potentially using some of those funds that would undermine Trump in the campaign, kind of subverting the true intention of those funds. That's scary, and that's not healthy, and that's very manipulative. And I think that people need to. There's no point. Some people just think differently. Maybe Trump should just say, I agree with Nancy. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. I'm listening to CDC, blah, 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 blah. And the beautiful thing is, she can say, like, we don't have time to wait for the CDC. Joe Biden can affirm this. You have to act now. You're the president. And people are just like, yeah. And the people that think that way are just the people that are going to think that way. The only concern I have is there's this group of people that are on the fence that care about their parents, that are like, Trump inherently is ridiculous. And they're just tired of it. It's rough. I don't know. I hate to be him. I hate to be him. I don't know how he does that job. He's getting just attacked every which way. Manipulation, game theory, trying to get him to say something when he shouldn't. He just had walked out of a 60-minute interview. The reason of which allegedly the interviewee wasn't wearing a mask. That's what he says. The left is trying to spin this as two ways. Both that he should have known she wasn't wearing a mask earlier in the interview, and that wasn't the reason he left. And two, that he was afraid to answer questions. Brilliant. You cover all your bases. You know how difficult this is? Has CNN ever said anything nice about that guy? I mean, I hate this, channel media where, if you want conservative opinions, Fox. If you want more of a biased look at how awful President Trump is 24/7, you go to CNN, about how incompetent he is. You can't be incompetent and lose your fortune, make your fortune, lose your fortune, become president of the United States against all odds. He's not Kramer assembling ass first into money. He's talented. He's very capable, and he works his ass off. You can see that. I mean, if you were to really look in terms of a critical perspective of how much time he is working, I don't care if he spends from 7 a.m. till noon watching TV. It's certainly strategizing in some sense, because he's definitely been playing the media for most of his career the correct way. I think they might have caught up recently, but man, it's awful. It's truly awful. I wish that the media, for the sake of the American people, kind of didn't go after the guy so badly. I mean, it's brutal. It's not healthy. They don't care about the American people. Once the bifurcation in media happened and the major players like ABC, NBC started losing money to YouTube and people that could just have their own channel, like moi. Clickbait, the TMZ model became game. It wasn't, Lockheed Martin loses 35 billion on the F-35. No, it's Trump likes to do coke and punch babies. Our officer shoots black baby in the face 25 times. Click, right? Of course. That's fucked up. It's not healthy. I don't like it. But that's life. You gotta make money somehow, I suppose. You gotta survive. Switching to Apple, I think this is interesting. Following the reveal of its Apple Watch and iPad models in September, and in slew of the iPhone 12 with the ARM chips, Apple is coming out with its own processor. A silicon-powered Mac that is 1/4 the cost, $75 per chip, of the Intel processor that it was using before. I think this is really very similar to Netflix making their own content, saying kind of F you to their content providers, because it's okay, well, you need the content. We're going to keep raising prices. You're going to lower your margins, and we're going to be kind of the gatekeeper. And no, we can pay for people to make our own shit, man. So fuck you. Netflix knows drama, motherfucker. Yeah, we don't need you. They license, of course, but then they create their own stuff, and slowly but surely, you become not a TNT watcher, not an NBC watcher, but a Netflix watcher of the same type of show. There's a formula, right? 30-minute episodes, there's a formula. It's very interesting. I wonder if they get into GPUs, get into AMD's game. This is really, really interesting. You have some chip stocks that skyrocketed on the eve of the potential for augmented reality and AI. And I think some of the major players don't want to be slaves to these private chip makers. So they can do one of two things. They can either spend money, which Apple has a ton of, and create their own product, which they seem to be doing, or they can purchase a company, which the interest of which using debt is tax deductible. The only thing is that you can also just buy, a chip maker, some president of the company, or have them come over, give them an absurd salary, and say, here, start doing that, and save yourself a ton of money, because you don't really have to They know architecture. They know x86 architecture. That's the licensing fee that all the computer companies would pay Intel for years. They had these patents on the processing chips as we've known them forever. That's changing. ARM technology is not part of that. And if you use ARM or another form of processing power, you don't have to pay those licensing fees to Intel. And those licensing fees for Intel make them billions and billions of dollars. It's not clear if x86 will ultimately be abandoned, but it looks like, why in the world would you pay such absurd fees? Why bother? Why bother? You don't have to. Certainly the margins that Apple has, I think their ROE and ROA, and they have like 75%, crazy brand recognition, right? But you have a duty to your shareholders. You have hordes of cash. Like 122 billion more in cash, maybe $1 trillion in cash. I don't know. I can't call right off the top of my head. Maybe 300-400 billion. You can do whatever they want. You can buy whatever they want. They don't even have to use cash. They have so much in terms of assets, cash and non-cash. Like they can do anything they want. But this is really interesting for the future in terms of competition. I like AMD stock. I liked it at 12, liked it at 70. Now I'm kind of wondering. Lisa Su, I thought maybe as a woman, as a president, maybe she'd be bought out by now. She's a great face for her company. It's a great Silicon Valley story. Maybe she'd join Apple, take AMD with her. But I guess when you're trading at 185 times earnings, kind of makes more sense just to, making these chips is not that complicated. You even have them in your computer. You have the architecture. You can take it out and copy it and just change some things around, right? Make it your own. ARM, Apple's been working on that. Why bother paying? If you can run ARM on everything, on your laptop and your cell phone, why pay Intel? Why buy out AMD? So it's one less partner. Scary. Google, why don't they do? See, this is the thing. It's a big deal in terms of the tech sector. I'm short Intel for this reason, just on the x86 licensing fees. I think that there's growing competition in semiconductors, and Intel is going to have a down period. What their value is, I haven't looked at a worst case scenario, but get back to you on that if you even care. Good news today, something close to my heart. Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin, has agreed to plead guilty to 3 federal criminal charges, not civil, criminal, for roles in creating the national opioid crisis, and will pay more than $8 billion and close down the company. This is the Purdue Pharma is owned by the Sackler family, which, as you know or may or may not know, they had emails back and forth, bragging to each other, family members and people inside the company to the family itself about how, oh my gosh, this is amazing, it's so addictive, we're going to make a fortune. The $8 billion would go to opioid treatment and abatement programs. The privately held company has agreed to pay a $3.5 billion fine, as well as forfeit an additional $2 billion in past profits, in addition to the $2.8 billion it's agreed to pay in civil liability. That's good. The company will be dissolved as part of the criminal charges. Its assets will be used to create a new government-controlled company, maybe a research company. Might be a good idea. Maybe get into ibogaine and other treatment options that are currently classed Schedule I substances. Get into magic mushrooms and DMT. Maybe do something to find a way to reset people's opiate receptors so that the recidivism rate or the relapse rate or the overdose rate is curbed substantially, and the maintenance therapy of methadone and other treatment protocols like Suboxone that seem to be kind of crippling in the sense of kind of attaching you to a derivative analog of the actual drug you're addicted to and saying you're cured is somewhat false, and long-term effects of those drugs seem to be as damaging in terms of bone density and such as the actual street drug itself or the prescription medication that you're abusing. So, and also the moral agency problem of drug rehabilitation centers that are essentially trying to help you but making money through a derivative patient pool that is essentially paralleling the amount of drug users, and the market for the drugs. Seems like everyone's been to rehab at least once. Just imagine convincing parents and family members that, hey, we can save that person's life from overdosing. We're just going to keep them on this drug and kind of monitor it for the rest of their life. What is the drug? Well, it's an opiate, but it's not what they were taking. Not. I don't like that. I don't think it's healthy. It's not for everyone, but I don't think it's healthy for young people, particularly that are susceptible, the Kennedy girl, Storsey, that passed away in 2019, for example. It's not a healthy way to treat someone like that who had just started using that substance, to put them on maintenance therapy the rest of her life. More than likely, she wasn't even addicted to something like that. She just took it, occasionally, maybe did some coke, recreational drugs, and deal issues with anxiety. Use benzos, maybe not. Maybe she just saw heroin and is like, oh yeah, this is super relaxing and awesome. And one day she did too much or did the wrong batch. And that's kind of the way it is. Fentanyl, especially in the COVID crisis, the amount of overdoses that have not been talked about. It's very unfortunate. I think that is a thing that we'll talk about later on, is how the opioid crisis has been subdued in terms of its public image as the number one crisis in America because of COVID, which in terms of a mortality efficacy ratio of deaths, it's not even close. It's almost a joke. And it all goes to this negative stigma of addiction. It's being kind of a choice. And I think that's the inherent problem. Is I don't think it's alcoholism. I think that when you're talking about someone who's literally killing themselves or risking killing themselves, not through pancreatitis over time with alcoholism, but like any second, the next dose they take could kill them and they don't care. That is a problem. That needs to be resolved. And post-acute withdrawal syndrome also is a huge problem where the brain needs those opioid receptors reset over time. If over prolonged use every day for years, causes problems in terms of getting off the drug. So I think this needs to be addressed in a number of ways. And the idea that there are drugs like Schedule I substances of psychedelics that could actually reset your opioid receptors within 3 to 4 days over an IV treatment like Ibogaine, proven, have an 80% success rate, credible. That's frustrating. It's frustrating. Not everyone has $5,000 to fly to Mexico. You have someone you care about that even convincing them that that's the correct course of action, because it's so extreme, it attacks themselves. They'd much rather go to an opioid clinic that gives them methadone or something like that. And I think that's unfortunate. This because it's not a common treatment protocol, and it's not kind of like there's no immediate benefaction to them. There's fear, uncertainty, will it work? I'm gonna miss. You have to go into it during withdrawals, but people that come out of it amazingly have no interest in using. Their withdrawals come from like severe withdrawal symptoms to like mild flu-like symptoms. I think that's wonderful. So that should be pushed. The government should do research on that. They're so slow with everything. The FDA, I don't even understand how they've been worried about the opioid crisis forever, and they haven't fast-tracked alternatives like they should have. It's all been like derivative medications of like opioid analogs to curb the crisis. It's so frustrating. There is this problem the feds have with taxing companies like that, like Purdue Pharma, and making tons of money over the years. If you're the FDA, you get, there's corruption all around. Ultimately, who polices the FDA? It's difficult. Government-sponsored enterprises and government entities like that, you look at your balance sheets, you look at sort of the standard of care. I think it's very late in the game that Purdue is even being fined, or federal criminal charges. They don't mean anything really for the family. No one's going to jail. And will the Sackler family be barred from the pharmaceutical business? What if they just restart another company and they base it out of Switzerland? They have the wherewithal to do so. I don't know. So it definitely affects me, and I think it affects everyone. And I think that's it's one of those things you never expect it to come around and actually like affect your life, especially if it's at a distance, right? And then like it hits you, and immediately you care about the subject matter because it's so devastating, and you realize more and more that it was right in front of your face the whole time, and you just didn't have any kind of selfishly, it just like kind of didn't think it was part of your circle of your life cycle, like that it would affect you directly. It's frustrating, very frustrating. Pivot, something a little less, a little more levity. 19 women have accused Donald Trump of sexual misconduct. 19. I don't have 19 fingers. Apparently all of their stories have one anecdotal element in common. You. Come here. I pee on you. Next. Yes, you. No, the blonde. Come here. Christen you. All right, next. Please come to the Donald. On your knees. Body of Christ. Piss. All right, more water, please. Thank you. That's about all I have on my list today to talk about. Talk about a couple things like local stuff. The Washington Redskins, near and dear to my heart. I think one thing that was strange about Ron Rivera's choice to go for 2 the other day, just saying, and now this is somewhat tangential, very, very, very like inside, like who cares, right? Well, you can't bench Dwayne Haskins as the first round pick from the previous administration of the team, saying that you want to win now, and then look at the team itself being, a chance to tie the game in the end and push it into overtime, given their current record of 1-4, and say that binary outcome, 50-50, 40-60, maybe he felt it was something like that. He actually looked at the stats in terms of like the proportions of probability. But I think you have to be conservative when you have a young quarterback like that in there with Kyle Allen, going for 2 to win it right then and there. You've been going for it a lot in fourth downs. Maybe take it easy. If your intent is to win football games, it seems like you're being far too your risk aversion is a little too low. Go to overtime, see what happens. Maybe Kendall Fuller intercepts another pass. That was frustrating. It was like a fear that the defense wouldn't be able to do anything against Daniel Jones, who plays. That's the thing. There was the defense could handle the Giants. They played well the entire game. I don't like that. At all. I think that's very frustrating as a Redskins fan. Washington football team, whatever. I almost feel like that's a moniker just to hang on and see if Trump wins, and he might go back to the Redskins and say, fuck you, I don't care. Or by calling it the Washington football team, it's almost like a demonstrably obvious kind of nickname that people will use interchangeably with Redskins over time. And yes, they are the Washington football team, and they're called the Redskins. It's just, I don't know what the gameplay there is, but calling them the Red Wolves or something, I just don't think that's going to ever happen. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't hold water. It's like if you're an Orioles fan your entire life, if you're a true diehard Orioles fan, you even accept that their market, in terms when you start to understand money, they'll never be able to buy players. They'll have to run through cycles of farm systems and then sell off their players when they take shots. It's like, okay, we have a 3-year window, and then we have to pay these guys. Better go to the playoffs and win now. Let's see if we can Oakland A's this thing. And that's it. And then you go through it again, the disappointment over and over. I can never be a Nationals fan for that reason. I can't do it. It's not in my blood. It's like saying, now I'm a Patriots fan. The Lerner family buy everyone. They have no, they were cautious of playing Bryce Harper, but it seemed like that paid off. They did the right thing there, going after pitching. I guess they could have kept Bryce Harper even if they wanted to, but I guess they saw something there in terms of like batting average and like long term maybe would have been like incredibly overvalued. Maybe someone like Manny Machado would have been more ideal, but neither here nor there. When you talk about sports and that degree, like where you come from, it's so innate in you. At least if you really care, nothing can stop you. No sexual harassment charges against your owner. You're a Washington Redskins fan for life, and that's what you are. And they're the Redskins, not the Washington football team. All that progressive bullshit only came about because of when money became involved, not because of ideology. That's the delusion. Oh no, they care about racism now. No, they don't. It's about money. That's what they did. FedEx was going to leave the team. FedEx, who pays tons of money for that, sign on the stadium, right? Then no one else wanted to fill the sign as the Redskins because of fear that there will be retribution from retail. People won't buy their product, it'll be boycotted, lose money, CEOs get fired. There's shareholder fiduciary duty, right? Like, you just want to protect yourself. Like, I care about the money. I don't care about like, hey, the Redskins, whatever. That's the delusion of the war on, racism, whatever. It's like, it's fake. You start to say, oh, well, we can't actually convince you through ideology because it's a farce. It's about control and power. We can convince you with pocketbook, with the money. We can put a stranglehold on that. And that's unfortunate. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Yeah. So just remember, if something's truly racist, society will weed it out. We don't really care about bigots. We don't care for them. Sorry. We don't care for bigots. We don't care for homophobes. If you do that stuff at work, you're fired, period. There's consequences for malicious intent, for cruelty, for evil. But when you start arbitrarily going after things that are like, even the Cherokee Nation says, oh, we don't care. And you're a white woman and you're saying, that's right. How dare you wear that Redskins shirt that's racist? I'm like, how do you feign offense when just 6 months ago you wouldn't have said anything? It's like you're reading like a headline from the news. It's not even real. You don't feel anything. You think you're supposed to. It makes you feel important. It's one of the most powerful things about progressive ideology, about the left today, is that they've done this wonderful move of making people feel important when everywhere else in their life they don't feel important. They feel abandoned. They feel blind, and they feel uncared for, not noticed. But when you start to put mediocrity above meritocracy in every category, oh, you're ugly, it's okay. You're fat, oh, you're unskilled, it's okay. Don't worry about improving. Don't worry about getting better at anything. That's capitalism, money, like improvement, success. These things are constructs of capitalism. This is wrong. It's wrong. It's unhealthy. You take these like blanketed statements like that. It culls an entire society from rising up against the status quo, against the powers that be. It's a brilliant move to avoid a frond or rising up against the aristocracy, which is somewhat hidden today, especially in middle America, about who really runs the world. The left can convince you that like Republicans run Wall Street. This is the right can convince you that it's the other way around. It's way more complicated than that. Way more complicated than that. And it's really easy to take this game when you have to feel like you have no control in your life, like someone walking by with a dog and they've had a rough day and they don't get paid enough and they're struggling with rent. You ever notice that? Like if you're say like me, 6'6", and I don't know, I'm imposing to other men maybe, I don't know, whatever. They might start yelling at their dog like, sit, hey, you sit, right when you're walking by, almost like, hey, look, I'm alpha, I got it done. This defenseless animal's gonna do as he's told. See, you see that? I have some pull. I have some. I don't like that stuff. If I was 5'10" and whatever, I bet that wouldn't happen. That's there's a lot of people that just want more, and we have social media and stuff like that that's telling you go to the gym and work on your pecs, and then it'll get you where you gotta be. It's fake. You're not ruining the world doing that. You got to go back to school, refine your skills, work from 5 to 1 o'clock in the morning after work on things that you really care about, that you want to get improved at and become skilled enough to where someone will pay you for what you want to do. And unquestionably, either it's derivative, you want money and you do something for the money that you don't necessarily love, but the money is that, or you do something you do love. In those circumstances, when that goal's ingrained in your head, usually it's forced to be ingrained because of all the work you put into it, and the only ways you put in that work is because you're passionate about it. The derivative or the direct. It's the only way you can rise up and see this bullshit is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. It's the greatest trick ever played. And it's destructive and messed up in every way, shape, or form. And it's been going on for a while, and now it's at a tipping point. The fall of the West is real. I wish there was like a consolidation of Jewish communities and African American communities to try to like bridge the gap. It's saying like you're being played. I wish that could happen. It would be nice, because instead of talking down to people or saying things are cultural that are derogatory or whatever, just fundamentally like a depression and the answer to it. Just it's the same answer to revenge. Living well, not complaining, not whining like a bitch. Take your seat on the throne. Don't complain about how it's unfair. The people that run the throne, that are already there, are going to use you as a puppet. You'll never get to the top of the throne. You'll always be beneath them. They're using you. But it's because I look like this. Tell that to the 5'6" Jewish producer in Hollywood or whatever, investment banker. You think of any anti-Semitic like way of viewing them, you want to. That's banging a 5'10", 20-year-old Russian supermodel, flying in a private jet, leasing his house to Jay-Z because Jay-Z can't even afford it, balling out of his ass. Oh, it's just because of my skin color or because I'm a woman. Take it, man. Take it. Fight. All right, so the BenBen. Yeah, I'm out. It's the rock.